right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. So we had a good day of tennis today. We played a lot. I even got out there and played. Still feeling the sweat, the heat. So pardon me if I'm sweating a little bit. So, for the parents here, how many people weren't watching the tennis today? Anybody raise their hands? Okay. So let's give a quick overview. Look, the whole idea of these collegiate exposure camps are to help people get more educated about college tennis, get exposure to coaches, learn something, ultimately get recruited, okay? And we do everything from collegiate style training and the intensity that these coaches do with their programs, what they're teaching their players, a lot of work on doubles and strategy because that's such an important focus in college tennis, team play. We do matches and we're helping you increase your UTR so that you can, again, have more matches that coaches can look at. And we're doing in-class sessions like this afternoon. Coaches talked about various topics of what helps them and has helped them with their teams, what they're looking for, what they want to see out of players. So, you're coming here and getting a lot of information. So if your child is or you guys here are like 9th and 10th graders, then you're really understanding what it's going to take over the next 2, 3, 4 years. If you're a junior or senior, this is your time to also get the exposure to get recruited. All these coaches know a lot of coaches. Everyone knows like 100 other coaches. Whether they want you for their team or not, they're here to help. And we're here to help. I designed these programs 6 years ago to do that purpose, like a hands-on experience, right? So I'll give you guys a quick background about myself. I grew up in Canada. I was born and raised in a town called Kingston, not Kingston, Jamaica, but Kingston, Ontario, which is in between Toronto and Montreal. But I started playing hockey, soccer, baseball, everything before I even started tennis. But I started tennis at 8, and I played once in a while. And by about 12, 13, I was at the club every day. I had a local club near me, and I would just go there because my buddies would play, and I'd stay there from 8 in the morning until my parents would call off the hook, asking me to come home looking for me. And I had some really good coaches around me, so I started to take it to the next level. Next thing I know, I'm playing, provincial, which is like state level, national level, and then there's opportunities to come down to the States. And I also didn't know if I wanted to go to the States, so I actually declined offers, and then at the last minute, after I graduated high school, I got a phone call from a coach in New Mexico and told me, hey, I still got a spot for you, sure you want to come? I don't know what it really triggered for me, but I asked my dad, I asked my coach, and they're like, well, if you go, you don't like it, you can always come back. And so, I don't know, at that point I just decided maybe I will give it a try. And I wasn't one of those people that didn't want to experience new things or was scared because I went to private school. I boarded for 3 years, so I lived away from home from 16 years old, 15. So that was an issue. So I think a bit of the fear of the unknown, but somehow it worked out for me. I played 2 years, in New Mexico, and then I transferred over to Jacksonville University, and I finished my last 2 years there. I struggled with, I transferred, I was an international student. I struggled with injuries. I struggled with changing the coaches. There was every problem that could have happened, probably did happen to me, but in the end, I had the best time of my life and I never wanted to leave. So even with all those scenarios that I went through, it was amazing and I never wanted to leave. So I stayed, I did my master's, I worked in basketball, I got a job through school to work for the Orlando Magic, and then I got a job with Coach Drysdale Tennis in Miami. Then I started going back home and I helped my dad build, do some real estate and business, like import-export, and then I got into recruiting. So I've been doing recruiting for the last 10 years now, and everything that I wanted to do with my college recruiting process was around my experience in college. And the fact that I saw so many things that could be better, including who I worked with and everybody else. Because when you're a student athlete, once you become a junior or senior, your job is to help the freshman and sophomore, as they come in and they're learning to lead them through the system. And every time I'd experience something from players on my team, I was like, how did you not know that? Or you had someone helping you, and how did that not work out? And so I started putting together a business plan. And so fast forward now, we've been running a really successful college showcase that happens at the end of November in Florida, where we have 96 players, full capacity of players, and over 100 college coaches that come. That's a showcase style. We run these camps because I want to get a hands-on experience working with college coaches, like access to them on the court. And so we run several of these: Harvard, Yale, Penn, UCSB. We've been at Pomona, California. So this is all grown, and then we help student athletes through the process every day, all day, every day in tennis and golf and other sports. We have a recruiting app that also helps you get information that you need. So it's a full service, stuff for everybody. And so I want to talk to you guys about my experiences. And one of the things that I always felt like was missing in this space is the candid conversations and the transparency. There are a lot of people out there that are trying to tell you what to do and how to do it, but they don't really know much at all, to be honest with you guys. Because there's very few people who actually live it and do this day to day. If you went around and you talked to somebody who says they know like some coaches and how to do this process, how many of them are doing honestly what I'm doing? Really a handful, right? And because I'm in it every day, I see what's happening. And I know what's going on. And I know that so many families, when I talk to them every day, when I get hundreds of emails, that there's the same type of problems. And it's like no one really knows where to start. They always come with like, my friend did this, a parent told me this, and I think I need to do that, and the coach told me this, and it's like my story that I just told you guys real quickly is everyone has their own story and their own situation, and no two situations are alike. And because of that, everybody's recruiting process is different, and the way you go about it and what you do. And so there's three main categories that sort of oversee it, and it's your tennis level, your academics, and your financial situation. Those three are the main things, along with, we can argue, your needs and wants, but I would say that most of those are negotiable. There may be a couple needs and wants because of a certain situation where you say, I have to be in this area or I have to do this. But other than that, those three things really dictate where you're going to go and how you're going to go about your process. So your situation is going to be different than someone else's. And because people are listening to the noise out there, it's creating a lot of confusion. So I'm going to ask you guys, put your hands up high if you have struggled in any part of the recruiting process, if you've gone through it. Put your hands up if you've struggled with some aspect of it. Only a couple people? So how many people know exactly what they're doing and have it all figured out? Okay, so I should have seen everybody's hand go up there. I'm going to ask the question one more time. Need a little participation here. How many people are struggling with something in the recruiting process? Okay, everybody, right? Okay. And I know that it is a struggle and there's confusion. So what I want to get out of this, the next sort of 15, 20 minutes when I talk to you guys, we can't talk about everything, right? We can go on for days. We can have a 2-week seminar, I think, and I could probably talk forever about how to do it. But that's part of it, is you're never going to know everything about it. Something that's really interesting is that this is not like a sales training class or like something you're going to do for the rest of your life. So for players and parents, you guys aren't going to sit there and learn about it and it's going to be something you can necessarily do for the rest of your life. So you're just looking for the solution, which is, in my opinion, why a lot of people are looking for shortcuts. Because they're like, I don't want to waste my time. How much, and I don't have the time to sit here and learn every little aspect of how to get my kid recruited or how I can get recruited if you're one of the players. They're thinking, well, what can I do? Where's the answers? I need to just get this done. But it's such an important step in your life, right? For you guys over here, when you go to college, university, that's the next big thing decision you're gonna make. It's gonna probably shape part of your life. And if you're a student athlete, it should have a really big impact because that experience is gonna be unbelievable. So, I want to talk about what you need to do in order to be successful. So, number one is get educated. I don't think there's enough players and parents getting educated. Last night, we had the residents do a little trivia. We did some fun trivia, went to the college tennis section and No one knew what NAI was. I doubt a lot of parents here even know what the NAI league is. People didn't understand how many schools are in Division 1, 2, 3. I mean, basic factual information you need to get familiar with, so you know what you're working with. Like, if I told you guys that you're most likely to play D3 tennis than D1 or D2, would you believe me? Do you know that? Do you know that there's more D3 programs than D1 and 2? So the likelihood of you playing is more in Division 3. That's true for all sports. And how difficult it is to get to the Division 1 level, and how difficult it is to get to the Stanfords and the Dukes and the UCLAs and all those schools. And where we are with the reality of that. So, you know, that again, like one of the reasons why I built our IMR app was to give you guys a place where you can see all the schools, for example, that are for tennis. If you log in as a tennis player, you can see all the schools, you can filter those results, you can get matched, you can do a lot of stuff to get information. But then you can also go on certain websites and the NCAA website and the NAI and get information about how many colleges play, what divisions they're in. You can go on tennisrecruiting.net, you can find out, you know, which players they're recruiting each year. So like, you know, if you want to go to Amherst, for example, who's here, you can go on their page on tennisrecruiting.net and you can see who they're typically recruiting, what level those players are, national rankings. A lot of players here are Americans, so you're going to see what type of players they're taking, star level, rate, ranking-wise, results-wise, all that information. Those are all things that can help you understand more about college tennis. How many of you guys have gone and watched a college tennis match? Okay, a few of you guys. So taking your child or going on your own and watching some college tennis matches. Doing this event, I think, is great for you guys. Like, I would be shocked if you guys said you didn't really learn anything today. Because just being around coaches and understanding the atmosphere and what they're trying to do with you guys and what it's like. And especially if you go to a real college match, you're going to see the differences and you're going to start learning what you need to do. Coaches, I was talking to a coach in California today for a minute, and then there was a couple coaches talking here. Coach Schulman, she mentioned, we look for character first and then tennis. So these coaches want to recruit players that have a great character, who are hardworking on and off the court, who are good listeners, who are leaders, who want to improve their game. They're looking for those type of players to put on their team. Understanding more about that and working on some of your strengths and weaknesses will help you become a better candidate to be recruited to play for one of those teams. So all of that education needs to come in. You guys need to spend time. I mean, you should be and I know people are later, but you should be, if the ideal situation is in front of you, it's like you start in grade 9. And you spend, you know, like even if you just, like everyone's got their phone in their hands now. Like we have smartphones in our hands. You have 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You have, whether it's Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or whatever, you can follow some of these teams and you'll get the feeds and you can browse through it. You can see what's going on. You can go on a website and check out some stuff. There's so many opportunities now that it's not even an excuse, and no one's asking you to spend hours and hours, but start understanding more about it and you will start to understand what's in front of you. The other big question that everybody has is UTR. UTR has become this really popular platform, and as much good as it's done, I think there's a lot of misconceptions or harm in some way that we need to get around, we need to fix. So again, people aren't going to speak out about this, but I am. You know, for one thing that people need to understand is UTR is a rating system, just like tennisrecruiting.net, but they're using it on an international scale. It's a universal rating for everyone. Tennis is an international sport. It's one of the highest, if not the highest, amount of internationals in collegiate sports. So because of that, and it being an international sport, we have to know where we stand here in America, for example, if you're American, against the rest of the world. And coaches need to understand how to gauge. They have no clue how a kid in Hungary is versus the kid in Connecticut versus the kid in China. And so what Universal Tennis has tried to do is create a rating system to give coaches and players an idea of where you fit. Now, it is not 100% accurate. Nothing is. But it is a pretty good understanding for the most part for countries and places that use it to give you an idea of where you fit. But it's not foolproof, and certain countries aren't on it yet, and certain data is not correct. They don't even have correct data on some colleges right now, because it's a company that's still growing and improving. And like any company, there's going to be some flaws. I mean, there's any app or website or thing that you use in the real world, whether it's like a CRM or even like Instagram was down a couple days ago, right? Like, things happen. So what we have to understand is that, yes, you're trying to improve your UTR, but what does that mean? That means you're improving your game, because your rating is a direct result of the results that you have in matches. If we didn't even like look at UTR and we closed UTR down for 3 months, but we were collecting the data and we just went out and played. And if you competed well and you're beating players that you're supposed to be that are at a good level, and then you're just winning, then it should go up. It's going to have that result. The difference we have versus, let's say, professional sports is like the ATP and WTA is one league, right? We don't have one league in tennis. You can play ITFs, you can play USTA, you can play a UTR, you can play like many, many different leagues, and every country has different stuff. So there's no and you can't always get to every tournament. Like, I know people that qualify for nationals and can't get to the national tournaments, whether it's a family thing or a financial thing or whatever it is, a conflict, they're sick, whatever it is. So like, how do you really know the levels? Because no one's going to argue on the tours, like who's number 1 and who's number 2 and who's number 3. And so that's why the rating systems are to give an idea, so that when a college coach is looking at players, that's one thing that they're going to look at. It's not the end-all be-all. It is one thing, but you know what they do? More so than the rating, they're going down and seeing your actual results and which players you're playing against and what results you're getting. Okay? I'll give you guys an example that I've given in all my talks recently is, before UTR existed and tennis recruiting was around, I had a kid that I was helping from Miami, and he was a little bit under the radar because of his situation, couldn't get to all the tournaments, but he was a good player and a late bloomer. And I went to the Wake Forest coach, who's a buddy of mine, and went to the Orange Bowl tournament, and I said, hey, can you take a look at him? So he looks him up, Googles him right on, and sees his tennis recruiting, scrolls right past his rating, and just goes down to the results and starts seeing his last few months of tournament results. And he's like, oh, he played this kid? Oh, wow, he beat that kid? I was looking at that kid. All these coaches, if you're in the right caliber, they're looking at 1,500 players that they're interested to potentially recruit over the next year or two. And if you're playing those certain players, they're going to start looking at some of those results. And then even then, if you're losing and you're close and whatever, they're still going to look into it further. So I want everybody to understand that there's an emphasis on UTR because it gives you an idea. And it's hard to argue. I've never seen a kid who's a 2-star who should be a 5-star. That's too big of a discrepancy. I do see kids who are 2-stars that can play and rally with 5-star players, but put them in a match in a different situation. That's the difference, though. That's the difference, right? And I see kids that are let's say a 6 UTR and they think they're an 8, but the same things. There's differences there. I mean, you can go half a point, maybe a point, you can be in a certain situation, but you have to understand that coaches know that. And so I've started to see everybody be a little bit more relaxed on the UTR this year in terms of meeting with players and stuff than it was last year. Last year there was a big frenzy and franticness that I'm not going to get recruited if I'm not this. Well, first of all, you got to be at the skill level. And generally, if you're closer to that, you're going to be a better candidate because the system's pretty good. But again, if you have a certain situation, a circumstance, it's okay. Just focus on your development. Focus on getting better. You guys all met Coach Getz today from UPenn. He's been a good friend of mine for a long time. He's a great developmental coach, and few years ago when everybody was going crazy over the UTR, I asked him, I said, how does, let's do an article where you get one UTR better. So I said, write something up for me. And his answer was simple. It was, here's how you get better. If you can improve your serve a little bit, if you can improve your forehand and make it a weapon, if you can make one more part of your game a weapon, your level can maybe go up one UTR. And because it's a direct correlation of you just being a better tennis player. So trying to game the system is not going to help you in the long run. Because everyone's always looking to game the system. But most coaches out there are not that dumb. They're going to do their due diligence. So you may slip through the cracks once in a while, but here's the thing. Let's say you slip through the cracks and you push yourself a little, or you push through somehow. You're not going to have an opportunity with the team. It's going to be a bad situation. So why would you want to put yourself in a bad situation? It's like the same reason people try to make the best recruiting videos. It's like, so you're just going to show the 20 shots you hit great in the 1 hour session and think that's going to sell the coach? Show who you are. Because once you get to the school and you start playing, you won't make it. And it's getting harder and harder because coaches don't just go through one little step. They're using more and more resources now because they're available. So I want to talk about simplifying your recruiting process. And so I designed a 7-step process, right, on how to get recruited. There's certain things you guys need to do, and I will send you guys that information. We did a follow-up webinar for our first 2 camps, and we'll do one for this camp as well, where I'll talk more about those steps in the process. But the steps go as easy as building a game plan. Everything starts with a game plan. Too many families and players go through the recruiting process without establishing where they are right now, academically, athletically, financially, what their needs and wants are, where they want to go, and realizing how much time and what's realistic. Because if you do that and you can figure that out, then the rest will just go in line with your plan. And anything that changes along the way, you'll just adjust. But that's the hardest part because most people don't evaluate themselves properly because, as a parent, you're going to think your child's the best player in the world, which is understandable. I think my kids are also the greatest. We kind of see through a different mirror. Players, you might not understand what your level is either because you might not have seen it all. You might be in your own little bubble, which is fine because you don't have that opportunity to get out if you're not playing, let's say, internationally, or the other kids, that's why you're relying on some of these ratings and rankings to figure out where you might fit. And so if you develop a good game plan, you understand where you need to go, what you need to do, then your next steps are building a profile, video, target list of schools, communicating with coaches, visits, and then final decision making and taking the right tests at the right times and the NCAA process and all that stuff to go through it. Those are all steps that you need to take care of. But you need to do it with a plan because there's certain strategies involved, there's certain things that coaches will say and want you to do, and the last thing you want to do is the last minute. I get more parents and players than ever coming to me and even junior year going in. It's like, I got time. It's like, yeah, it's too early for me. I find that troubling because once you get into senior year, life gets seriously tough because once you become senior, you got your social life, you got grades to manage, you have pressure to find a school. Coaches are going to be on you to get information. If you got to take the SAT again, the ACT, if you have to apply early, you have to work on your game. There's just a lot of pressure. It's hard for me to understand why you wouldn't start early and just keep working on it because it's actually just going to save you a lot of time. Plus, it's going to help you get the most opportunities. And it's not to say that a coach is going to recruit you right then. People look at recruiting as that's when I communicate with the coach and that's when I start to know if I'm going to play or not. Well, the biggest problem that people have is when they do that, they realize that the schools they want to go to don't always line up with what they thought, and they wish they knew the information that they're now hearing from those coaches and everybody else around them who's helping them. And now you have more time to actually put that, together, because you haven't set the goals, the game plan. You haven't set the game plan and what you want to do and assess what you're doing. So that's my question here. How many of you guys here, parents and players together, are assessing, your academics and athletic level and set goals? First of all, how many people set short-term and long-term goals? Actual short-term, long-term goals that are detailed out. Go ahead, put your hand up if you do. Okay, a few. Very few. And out of you guys, how many of you actually assess it every quarter or every year or half year? Yeah, halfway. So to me, it's as simple as this. If I'm, let's say, a UTR 8 and I want to be a 9, I'm going to say, okay, first of all, how realistic is it to get to a 9 in the amount of time that I have? And if I want to get to a 9, what is it going to take to be a 9? And that's the development side. And that's how am I going to improve my game to start beating those level players? What am I going to do with my game to get there? And how am I going to assess myself every few months to know if I'm reaching that, or do I need to reevaluate and take a different route? Right? So it's just for the parents, it's just like a financial planning and other things you do with your life and planning a family trip or whatever. You have to sit down and figure it out, and then you got to assess it and make sure it's feasible and possible and see if you're actually meeting your goals. And if you're not, you got to change something up. Because really, that's what everyone wants to do. Everybody wants to get to the best school possible, which means you got to be the best tennis player you can be, the best student you can be. And so that's tough, but that needs to be done, in my opinion, in order for you to reach your goals. And that means you got to put in the work, and that's the other piece of it. So it's one thing to write everything down and set goals and to say, I'm going to do this, and then you got to actually follow through, commit, and put in the work. And I think that, for you kids here, if your parents are here or not, you guys need to be the leaders in doing that. If you really want to improve your game, you've got to get your parents' support and help to start doing that together and work with your coaches and say, okay, look, I want to get to this level. How are we going to do it? I need to see something. And if your coach can't help you, can you do it? Can somebody help you? How can you get to that point where you say, okay, I've got to work on this and this, and I'm actually going to commit to it, and then I got to see some results. And tournaments and all that, are there results? Not shying away from tournaments, but actually going and putting your practice into play. And so, and that kind of leads me to my last point is everybody has a different desire level. And I think it's really important to start talking more about that between the parents and players. Okay, we need to address that every kid's different, and that not everybody loves tennis. Some people like it, and there's a special type of person who loves it, who's just there all the time and never wants to leave. That really wants to dedicate their life to it, and who will make a lot of sacrifices. And there's a handful of those people out there that can do that and also have the talent level to do that, plus do the academics. And so most people like it, and that's still that's okay. And wherever you land, that should be a good thing. Being a student athlete, there's a lot of different levels of college tennis, and there's a lot of different commitment levels, and there's a spot for everybody. In this camp here, everybody can go and play college tennis if they want to. It's just a matter of if that school matches what you are expecting and the academics match. I see a lot of people have a struggle with the academics and the tennis, and most often the tennis doesn't match up to the academics that they can get into or want to go to. So then it becomes a big question as you guys get a little older, and where parents can start helping you is, how do I determine if I want to be a student athlete and give up maybe the school I can get into academically to then go play tennis and have that student athlete experience and take, the second, what would be for you a second tier or a lesser challenge or name of an academic school? Are you guys willing to play college tennis, to play on a team and have that experience and go to a school that may not be your dream school that you could have gotten into academically, but to play tennis versus not. And like that's challenging because you guys are, 14, 15, 16, 17. Like I just told you my story. I declined all my college offers and I wanted to go to school in Canada. I don't even know why really. Like all my friends were probably going there. I got into a pretty good school that I never thought I'd get into. I only got into one school in Canada. Wasn't a great student. Loved sports. Liked tennis. And then really enjoyed my time. And I'm still involved in it. So everyone has like a different path. And I think that's something you gotta think about. And then it depends how much you wanna work. So is it okay to play a couple hours a day or 3 times a week? And then what does that mean then? Like if I do that, and that's what I wanna do, and I wanna have a good balance of social, tennis, I wanna play some tournaments, but I don't play too many, what does that actually mean as a student, like student athlete? Where does that mean you can go for college tennis? And then, executing and putting the work in the classroom as well as on the court. I mean, anybody who wants to be a student athlete at the collegiate level has to realize it's the next level. So they are expecting more from you because there's select people that go. Not everybody makes it. I think that's like hard for people to understand. I think it was hard for me. Like I didn't realize when I went to school that I was a select group. You really are a select group of kids. I mean, there's a lot of kids that don't make it, that want to, that don't get the scholarships or get recruited. Tons. So it's interesting. But that means that you've put in the work, that you've found a good fit, and that you have done every part. And so I'll just leave off and say that, look, it's what you make of it. And to me, I think like I've helped so many players and I work with so many players that they should be really, you can be happy and proud of what you're doing. Just gotta find out what you want and then start putting it together and using all the tools and resources that are available to you guys. Most people do need some kind of help. So I think that it's worth your investment, just like this camp will be such a great experience, parents, for your kids, that it will help them start making decisions. And so we invest a lot in our tennis and development, but we invest very little into our recruiting and trying to get to college. When really that's like the big step that we're trying to make. And so there has to be a little bit of a balance there too. And understanding that there are a lot of tools and options for you guys to help navigate it so you can get to the best school. You can maximize your potential. All right? So I'm just going to leave it open if there's anybody with some questions. I'd love to answer them right now. And if not, there's opportunities where we'll do a webinar and follow-ups where we can answer some questions for you guys. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
I have more of a comment, because with that trade-off situation, I think a lot of kids don't know enough about club tennis and how strong that might actually be in some places.
Yes.
And especially at that, maybe that top academic school you got into, but you can't maybe play that Division I, but they have a very competitive interscholastic, go to that and go to nationals or whatever. So there's a lot going on with that. It's co-ed. It's another whole thing people could look into. A lot of it is actually very competitive.
Absolutely. So you want my opinion on that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, another great option. You're absolutely right. So if you're in that boat where, you get into, a school that you can't play for, a lot of the big D1 schools, that we all know, the Stanfords and Dukes and the USCs and stuff, they're looking at, that special less than 1% of the population who are, top players in the world, juniors, as well as top students, and there's only so many spots for them. So if you take the route to go and play and go get admitted to one of those schools, there is, intramural club tennis teams that are really, really good, very competitive, that have a lot of great players that you can still continue to play the game of tennis and really enjoy it. That's a great option and an opportunity for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that have done it. In fact, like the former assistant for UCLA men's team, Grant Chen, who's now at SMU, like he played club. He wasn't nearly good enough to play for UCLA, but he did, and then he volunteered to help with the UCLA men's team and he was, a manager, and then worked his way up to assistant, and now he's the head men's coach at SMU, and he's got a big time job. And that's a cool pathway, he's still in the game, he loves it, he still plays all the time. So, thank you for putting that out there. Another question? Yeah.
How do you feel about high school tennis when you have a 3-month season where you're on a high school team and you'll play matches against some really good players, but also some
Yeah,
shitty players? So
yeah.
you're maybe not pushing yourself as much as you would if you're just playing
Yeah.
USTA tournaments.
I'm like, one of the girls here asked a question about to Coach Free from Wesleyan, like about high school tennis, and kind of similar question. My opinion is very simple. And that maybe goes back to the UTR thing too. Doesn't matter who you play. Okay? Now, there's a fine line. Okay, if you're playing a high school season, 3 months, and you're not getting any other tennis, and everybody's like doesn't even challenge you, and you're winning those without even any competition, well, that's gonna hinder your growth, for sure. Obviously, there's a huge aspect of high school tennis that's great because it's a team sport and it's more similar to college tennis than anything that you can experience, and it's fun. If you're getting some competitive matches and some not so much, then I think it's perfectly fine. And I think the matches that aren't so competitive give you confidence. You need that. I believe that a perfect schedule is a player that plays, majority of their matches, as competitive as possible, tournaments that are competitive for them, where they can get, hopefully a few rounds in, make some quarters, whatever it is. They're gonna play a few tournaments where they're challenged and don't really expect to get past the first round to see the next level of tennis and get inspired, give their chance at trying to play some of those players, and then playing some tournaments, a few tournaments where you go deep into the draw and hopefully win it. Because everyone wants to put some trophies up in their room because it not only feels good, but you need to have a chance to get some confidence and work on your game. So in my opinion, a lot of times high school tennis can do that in that situation where you're playing half the matches that are competitive and half that aren't, and it's giving you, that opportunity to be on a team and all that stuff, and then you're getting that opportunity to also win some matches and work on your game and build confidence so that the matches that are competitive, you can hopefully have that confidence to win those. But if it's going to hinder your development to the point where you're playing so many of those and you're not getting enough competitive matches, then obviously that's a bit of a problem. But it's such a short season too, right? And so if you're in that situation where it's just totally non-competitive, then that's difficult to play in because you're not getting what you need to improve the game. But certainly there's so much value to be on those teams as well, and the rest that you learn from it. So it's a bit of a balance. I think that just has to be sort of an assessment per person. Does that make sense? Yes. Any other questions?
I have another question.
Sure.
What you're saying about, sacrificing maybe your top tier first choice academic university for playing
Yes.
as a college player. Is there such a thing as walk-ons on those best academic universities? Like you hear about that? You hear walk-ons,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good question. No coach is going to take a walk-on player who has a big discrepancy between their actual players that play on the team. It doesn't really work in their favor at all because what do you do with that player then? There are a lot of players that want to walk onto a team, but they're not far off. So like if you're talking tennis recruiting terms, like they're a 4-star instead of a 5. If you're talking UTR, they're like an 8 instead of a 8.75 or something. Maybe it's not going to be a huge discrepancy. And walk-on spots are interesting. Like I said, the coach from UCLA, or former UCLA, like he wanted to just go and play and be part of the team in some way. Some people are saying, yeah, like I'm going to that school no matter what. If I can walk onto the team because I'm very close to the level and the coach is willing to take me, at least I can be on the team. And maybe I can work my way up into the lineup. Coaches want to take a walk-on who has some potential, but the likelihood of you making it is slim But at least you're on the team and you get to have some workouts and stuff, and you're still part of an experience. But because you weren't willing to sacrifice the school for the tennis. But in my opinion, is like, everyone wants to play, right? Like if you really want to play. If you want to play, then you should go to somewhere where you're going to play, because then you're going to get the full experience. You know, every situation and coach is different too. Some walk-ons, coaches are gonna, like, this is honesty right here, some coaches aren't really gonna care that much about you, because they have nothing invested in you, but some will. So that situation's also different. I see a lot of walk-ons, you know, I mean, I can't generalize, but a lot of them quit after a couple of years as well, because like, you know, they don't see any playing time, and they're just done with it. Some people follow through with it, depending on how close they are to getting into the lineup. And some get the opportunity to play once in a while if that coach wants to give them a chance in some weaker matches, or if they have extra options to play. Like sometimes they'll travel if it's close by, and the other team will have a walk-on too, so we'll let them play. Maybe not for the college match, but still being there. Any other questions? No? All right, well, thanks a lot for your time, guys. I appreciate it.